I, I, I think it's not a favorite memory, but it's probably the one that stuck the most. It was the first day of our gathering. We were, as IMsL contestants, we were coming from different parts of the country. And we were to meet at a little bar there in the Castro called Francine's. It was a little small women's bar on the corner. And it was probably around 11 o'clock, and just we weren't all there. We were still waiting for everybody to come and for the driver to get there with the van to take us on a tour of San Francisco and introduce us around. And so we were just kind of standing around milling. Not really, a few of us were talking to each other, but it wasn't that much of a connection. And a guy walked into the bar, and he walked over to the bar and grabbed the bartender by her hair and dragged her over the bar and started to drag her out the front door. And she's screaming for help. And everybody we were a little stunned at first, and all of a sudden, all of us were moving at once after this guy. Like I said, I can't remember who all was there. I remember me, Bobby Foster, Shadow Morton, and I think Kim Wallace, but I may be wrong. Anyhow, the guy got her out the door. He was already starting to go around the corner and drag her up the sidewalk. And by the time we caught him, and we all came out and jumped on this guy, and we're trying to break his hold on her. Shadow's trying to sit on him and hold him down. He's trying to get away. I'm hitting his arm, trying to break his grip, hitting him in this area, trying to break his grip on her hair, because he's still got his hand tight in her hair. And Bobby Foster managed to do it. She had on a leather wrist cuff, and it had these huge spikes on it. And she hit him. She came down and got him right in the throat with the spikes, and he let go. As soon as he let go, Shadow grabs his hand. She's sitting on him. I move in between his hand and the woman, and I'm pushing her out of the way. And we get her away from him, and then we're all holding him down, and it took all of us to keep him down. And somebody had called the police, and up came the police car, and I remember looking up, seeing the police car pull up, and we're still, like, everybody's struggling to keep this guy down, and the cop that gets out is a very petite little female patrol officer. And we went, "Not gonna help us. You need more." So she got it. I mean, she was sharp. She got it right away. So she called for backup, and a paddy wagon came rolling up, with a bunch of men from a SWAT team. It looked like they all piled out of the paddy wagon and came over and took over for us. And they got him into the paddy wagon and drove away with him. And we all were like, okay, well, now what do we do? What's next for fun today? And we all went back in, of course, to the women that were still inside were taking care of the bartender. But it was like an instantaneous, well, not quite instantaneous, but it was a moment that drew us all together. It changed, I think it really made a big difference in the whole weekend for all of us, because it drew us all. We felt like we were all friends by that time. We had gone through this together, and nobody had shirked, nobody had backed off. So it was one of those, we all went together to do something, and it made a big difference. And a lot of those women will be my friends the rest of my life. Some of them are gone now, but you know, I may not see them. I haven't seen two of them in a long time, but I still love them and always will. But like I said, that was an interesting time. The best part was traveling. Sasha and I going as many times as we could. If she was well enough, because we were dealing with her cancer, if she was well enough, we never said no. We went wherever we were needed. And the only thing I'd do is I would check with my friend Jim Ed Thompson, who was my mentor, to see if this was a legitimate thing that we should be doing, and he would say, is it going to help leather women? And yes, well, that's what you're trying to do, so go for it. And that was our goal, was realizing that we could make a difference for leather women. And there were a lot of us doing that. It wasn't just me and Sashi. There were women in San Francisco and other women in Portland and in Seattle and in Vancouver, all along that West Coast, trying to do things that would help us be safer. And it's just that I ended up with a platform. So part of it was having a platform to do that. The other part was getting to make friends all over the country. Everywhere we went, I met somebody in every single place we went that I'm still friends with and will be as long as we're both on this planet. So that was the greatest thing about being IMsL. And one of the hardest things about being IMsL, again, was knowing that some of those people wouldn't be, especially some of the people I was closest to, wouldn't be there in a year. Because that was during, it wasn't the height of the plague, but it was damn near close. Okay. The number one, I think, was not thinking I was doing enough. There was always something else. Sasha and I talked a lot. She was IMsL as much as I was. She traveled whenever we traveled. She traveled with me. She would take one side of the room, I would take the other. We were always out and meeting. And she loved being IMsL. She loved it. And I wasn't quite as in love as she was, but I really felt like I felt good about the fact that I did have a platform to talk about what things could be done that could make things better for us. And in that same, it was better for the community in general, because we really needed to pull together in those times. Another worst part of it was, as I said before, knowing that a lot of the people I was meeting that I really enjoyed and got to care about wouldn't be there, or hearing in 2 or 3 weeks that they were gone. And my mentor, Jim Ed, I would call him, he said I could call him anytime. And sometimes it would be late at night before I would call him, because that's when our events back then ended, usually when the bars closed. And losing that ability to be able to call someone and ask questions. So that was the worst part of it. Have a reason you're doing it. Have a reason that means something to you here. Not just to have a title. Think about it that your community is actually hiring you to do something that can help the community. So have something you care about enough to spend that year, and it'll stick, believe me, spend that time making a difference. Okay? Because if you've got it here and you have the capability of doing it, that's the best anybody can ask of you. The second thing is, when you go before a group of judges and they ask you questions, by the time you get to that, actually pretty much any panel that you're going up against now, don't tell them what you think they want to hear. Tell them what you think. Because they're not trying to pick a clone. They're not trying to pick a figurehead. They're trying to pick somebody who cares enough to do something. So tell them what you think. And then if you win, do it your way. Don't let anybody like me or anybody else tell you you're doing it wrong if you feel you're doing what you need to be doing. So do it your way. That's what makes it work. Each one of us, each one has been as different as we can be, and yet nearly every single IMsL, and that's the ones that stayed, all of the ones who stayed had a reason for what they did and did it the best they could. So that's it. That's the best advice I can give. And eat before you go. You'll never get a chance to eat if you go to an event that has food. Trust me. Eat before you go. Everybody wants to talk to you. You'll never get a chance. I know that the reason I do that is I was the first woman to judge Mid-Atlantic Mr. Leather. And it was it was one of the 3 big events of the year. There was IMsL, or IML, IMsL, and MAL. And they invited me to judge at MAL. I went, and they go to the bar, and then they went to a big club, and then we went to where the contest was held. At the club, the Mid-Atlantic, the Leathermen, God, why did I just space it? The Centaurs are famous for the spread of food they would put on. I ended up helping Frank Nowicki. That's how I met Frank Nowicki. He and I were peeling eggs together for their deviled eggs and egg salad because they didn't have enough kitchen help. And I'm dressed in full leathers, so is he's all dressed in his tux and leathers and ready to go, and we're in there peeling eggs because he did the flowers and I was there to help judge. So that's how we met. But we went out when it was the meet and greet and the beautiful food and everything, and you walked out, and now you'll probably cringe a bit, but roast suckling pig with the apple in its mouth, the whole thing. A shrimp tree. It was this ice carved tree with shrimp hanging from it. I mean, the food was incredible. I never got a single bite of food that night, not one, because there were so many people that wanted to talk to me. I never got a chance to eat anything. I would have had to be just the rudest human to go over and start eating when somebody was trying to talk to me, so I didn't get any food. After we got done, I had to go get fried chicken. I think it was KFC or something. I'll never get over that in my lifetime. That food was beautiful, and I love food.
Thank you for doing this interview. Your contribution to this community is just unbound. Everyone's so grateful and so lucky to have you. Thank you for doing this interview.
I think one of my big blessings in life was to become a part of this community. And I know I was led here because how could you not love it? Look at the kind of people we have. I've always loved the leather community because of the hearts.